everybody knows about this prohibition of what is known as riba, which is usually translated as interest. But the broader principles go back to this principle that you should not make money with money, which practically means, first of all, that Islamic finance must always be directly linked to the real economy. Another principle of Islamic finance is the principle of risk sharing as well as profit and loss sharing. Yet another principle is to avoid speculation. And I would say these are the three most important features of the principles of Islamic finance. And of course, there is basically the idea that ethics must be central to Islamic finance. Yeah, I think this goes back to the very history of Islam and how it relates to economics and finance. Namely, that Islam was born in the city of Mecca, which was a center of trade. And the Prophet Muhammad was himself a merchant. So unlike other religions, which tended to look down upon money-making, Islam has generally a positive attitude towards commerce and does not necessarily look down on wealth, provided that the wealth is actually obtained in an Islamically acceptable way, which precisely means that it contributes to welfare and productivity. And in that sense, making money with money is what Islam, like other traditions, objects to. Maybe we should also say that there's always a gap between the theory and practice. So the theory is one thing. The practice does not always approximate what the underlying principles are. But basically, there are a number of transactions that are acceptable in Islamic finance, such as leasing or sales transactions. And what Islam tries to avoid is straightforward interest-based lending. So what the most common Islamic products attempt to do, and I'm saying attempt because they don't necessarily always do it, is make sure that there is this correspondence between the underlying economic activity and the financial transactions. So Islamic banks do provide financing, except that this financing takes a variety of forms that are all based on traditional Islamic contracts and Islamic ways of doing business. Whenever there's a prejudice against Islam, then almost automatically there are going to be suspicions about the money. But having done a lot of empirical work on that subject and actually written a whole book on that subject, there has been no evidence that any Islamic institution was actually involved in financing terrorism. And it's logical because if you're a terrorist, you know precisely how not to get caught. And you know that if you go to an Islamic institution, then there's going to be greater scrutiny.